In today's video, we're doing some major decluttering, for someone else this time, and I had 7 hours to sort through as much stuff as I could and get these spaces as clear as possible. Honestly, out of all the cleans and declutters I've done so far, this one was hands down the most challenging. I know I always say that, but it's because I was having to make hard decisions of what to keep and what to throw for someone else this time. That's a lot of responsibility and a lot of pressure. But you know, I love taking on new challenges and seeing what can be achieved in a short space of time. And I hope you love watching today's transformation. So some of you might have recognised the kitchen from the clips you've just seen. And yes, we are back at my auntie's house. She asked for my help in cleaning out 2 rooms in particular that have become a bit out of control. And this is in preparation for my grandma moving in. My grandma's selling a home because she's gotten to the age now, especially after my granddad's passing, where living in and maintaining a house all by herself has gotten a bit too much. And how great is it that she has the option to come and live with my auntie and always have company and family around. Not everyone's able to do that. But in order for her to be able to move in, we need to sort this house out. She's going to be staying in the front room downstairs, and my auntie's plan was to clear this upstairs room to make space for everything that's kept in the front room. And then they can get to work on redecorating and making that a nice and cosy space. So, my job was to utilise my special gift of clearing a space in the fastest amount of time possible. I'm not going to lie, when I first looked at this room, I did not know where to start. So of course, I had to write out a game plan in my head. And the first thing I decided to do was gather and bag up every single item of clothing. This house is overrun with clothes. My auntie used to work at a charity shop, and over the years she's acquired so many beautiful items of clothing. But she's well aware that there's just too much and not enough storage space. And it's gotten to the point where the clothes are just overwhelming. They're in piles all over the house, and she doesn't even remember everything she's got. Which makes sense because some of the stuff's underneath piles and piles of other stuff, so how could she? On top of that, she had a lodger last year who's since moved out, and who still hasn't got round to taking back some of her stuff. So I bagged all the clothes up, took them downstairs to my auntie, who was on hand to help behind the scenes, and she went through each bag and decided what was worth keeping, what was worth giving away, and what belonged to her friend. My auntie is a lot like me in terms of sentimentality and wanting to hold on to things just in case. But on this day she was brave and ruthless, and she ended up getting rid of 4 full bags of clothes. Which made me very proud because from the bottom of my heart, I know how hard it is. So after getting rid of the clothes, my next plan of action was to lump everything into categories. I thought that'd make it a lot easier to sort through. So here, for example, I'm boxing up some of my auntie's friends' glassware and plates. And behind the scenes, I was taking things downstairs and grouping them so that my auntie could make the final decisions on what to do with them. And at this point, you're probably wondering, if I'm able to do this, why couldn't she? But let me tell you, for a lot of people, coming face to face with a room like this would just be a big fat nope. I can't do it, I have no idea how to tackle this, I'm just going to avoid it at all costs. Sometimes people just need a hand with this kind of stuff, and for someone else to take the reins and break it down a little bit, so that the sorting becomes less overwhelming. And when you get to the root cause of big messes like this, it's the same thing. Some of us are just lacking in the organisation department. In the pick up as you go along department. And I'm one of those people. And when you have brains like ours, things quickly spiral out of control and become unmanageable. And it's not because we don't care, it's because our brains don't necessarily function like everyone else's. A mess that would be considered easily preventable to some is a daily battle for others. And often, no matter how hard we try, the mess just creeps up on us. Over the years, I've found ways to manage my own messiness. I'm not perfect by any means. Keeping on top of my own house still overwhelms me sometimes, and I think that'll probably always be the case. But now I have systems in place that 9 times out of 10 help prevent it getting to an unmanageable state. And on the occasions that it does, I have tactics and methods that help me deal with it quickly, as I'm sure you'll have seen in a lot of my videos. And to be in the position that I'm in right now, to be able to share what I've learned through these videos, and to be able to go and physically use my skills to help people work through situations like this, just makes me so happy. I'm honoured to be able to help, and I'm just so grateful to be here. Anyway, some of my other categories were toddler stuff, My auntie is a very proud grandma and she has bags and bags of stuff for my nephew that I wanted to find homes for. Another category was attic stuff. I don't know if you noticed, but there were 2 huge boxes full of Lego, and they used to belong to one of my cousins when he was a little boy. And he's hoping to sell them, but for the time being they can be stored away in the attic. My other cousin also has quite a bit of stuff here that she doesn't have room for at her house, and so does my granddad. And so I grouped those into separate piles so that they didn't get mixed up with everything else. As I said earlier, this room is intended to be a storage room, but that doesn't mean everything should be thrown in willy-nilly and have no order whatsoever. It's important to know where everything is and to just be able to walk right up to it if you need it. No more piling boxes on top of boxes and throwing things all over the shop, because that will quickly cause issues, and if you've ever seen the cupboard in my bedroom, you'll know what I'm talking about. There was also a lot of stuff that just needed to go to the tip. And this is where I had to use my discernment and make some decisions myself. I did try and get my auntie up here to decide what to keep and what not, but I could tell she was just getting really stressed by it all. So I told her to leave it with me, and if I thought something looked important or valuable or held any kind of sentimental value, I double-checked with her. If you've been following me along on my own personal declutter journey, especially the decluttering of my kitchen, you'll know that I also hold on to way too much stuff. And I'm only now discovering how freeing it is to finally let things go, and how fulfilling it is to rehome things to people who are in more need of them. And how actually you genuinely don't miss most of the things you release, and it is a release. Those were my auntie's chickens there. She's added 3 more to the crew since the last video I filmed here. But yeah, I think for a lot of people who hold on to resources, or for want of a better word, hoard, there's this deep fear or almost a guilt in letting go. Whether that's due to sentimental reasons, associating an item with a particular person, or even anthropomorphising the item itself, which is seeing it as having human qualities or feelings. Some people have very intense special interests and are avid collectors, and it can just get to the point where they have too much stuff and not enough house. Another reason it can occur is due to having not enough growing up and feeling like you need to hold on to everything just in case. It stems from a deep-seated feeling of scarcity that can be really hard to shake. I know in my case it's the former. I attach sentiment to everything. But there are so many reasons people can end up in situations where their homes become overrun with things. And I think if someone's immediate reaction is to judge, that says so much more about the person casting aspersions. No one, not one of us, is better than anyone else. We're all going through it in our own different ways, and we need to start being more compassionate and more understanding. It's so easy to judge. It's far more admirable to take the time to understand, to truly see someone without the lens of this assumed superiority clouding our vision. At the end of the day, we're all flawed, we're all human, and life is very, very short. So let's be kind while we're here. It's not only good for the people around us, it's good for us too. Anyway, at this point we were over halfway through with the time I had, and there was still lots to do, but I was feeling positive. This room was almost clear and looking so bright and spacious. I'd found places for most of the things. I used those big chest of drawers behind me to store all of the toys so that they weren't in those big bulky bags anymore. The attic stuff just needed to be taken up, and the rest of the stuff was either ready to be taken to the tip or to be donated. And I knew that the next room I needed to clear wasn't going to be anywhere near as complicated or time-consuming. I would have really loved to stay a bit longer, and you'll see why later on in the video. But after I finished here, I had to go to my little boy's parents' evening. I stayed until the very last minute possible. I cut it very fine and then ran home to have a shower because after 7 hours of this, as you can imagine, I did not smell pleasant. I tell you, when I got into bed that night, I slept like a baby. You don't realise how much of a workout cleaning and decluttering is, do you? Anyway, this room was almost clear. I just had to decide what to do with this paint and decorating stuff. And after speaking with my auntie, because they were going to be redecorating soon, we decided to leave it be. They're also going to be doing a lot of building work because the house is kind of falling apart, but I'll speak about that later on. Next up was the front room downstairs. Similar kind of vibe, just a bunch of clothes everywhere. This room was kind of doubling up as a laundry room. She's got the tumble dryer in here, an ironing board and loads of clothes horses. So I started off by folding everything and putting them into the million laundry baskets she had in the spare room. And I'm allowed to take the mick, she is my auntie. I noticed when I was folding everything, it all felt quite cold and damp. Even though they'd been on the clothes horses for a while, I could also smell damp. But at this point I just thought, it's to be expected when drying this amount of clothes in here. She had a dehumidifier up in the spare room that she was going to keep, so I told her it's probably a good idea to keep it in this room whilst everything's drying, because we all know a humid room in cold weather is not ideal. It's something a lot of people are having to deal with in Britain, especially in the older houses. They are just magnets for mould. Add to that not many people being able to afford to put the heating on for extended periods of time. It's just, cost of living stuff. I know it's the same for so many other places in the world at the minute. My auntie's not had heating or hot water in this house for quite a while now. But on a more positive note, with my grandma selling her house, both my mum and my auntie are due to inherit a chunk of the house money. And my auntie's decided to completely renovate the downstairs of this house, or at least do as much as she can with the money she gets. There is so much work that needs to be done on this house. A lot of the walls are rotting away and need to be redone because of the damp, and the bathroom and the kitchen definitely need a lot of work done on them too. So not only will she hopefully be able to afford that, but she'll also be able to afford a new boiler, which means heating, hot water and no more damp walls. Fingers crossed anyway. Of all the people I know, my auntie deserves to have a cosy and warm home. She's just the kindest, most generous person. She'd give a stranger the shirt off her back, she honestly would. She helped me when I was in a really low place in my life. I'd just gone through a breakup with Rudy's dad and I was struggling for childcare when I went to work. And every Wednesday evening she'd have Rudy for me and keep him overnight, because I worked quite late into the night. And I remember just the other day, me and Rudy were looking through the books on his bookshelf. And he picked up this particular one, I think it was Funny Bones or maybe Megan Mogg. And he says, did you get this book from Anna's house? And I said, no, I don't think so, we've always had this book. And then he went on to tell me that Auntie Anna had all of those books at her house, the whole set. And he remembered being 2 years old, all snuggled up and reading them with her. And I just think, what a lovely memory to have. And I'm just so grateful that I had someone so lovely and kind to watch my baby for me while I couldn't be there. And just to be surrounded by family, to have my mum, my dad, my stepdad, my auntie, all on hand to help with childcare when they're able, because they all work too. It's just the biggest privilege in life, and it's something I'll never ever take for granted. I know so many people aren't in this same fortunate position. And I always say in these videos, even in the midst of what feel like such hard times, there's always opportunity to count our blessings, because when you really stop and look, you'll find that there's so much to still be grateful for. Anyway, I had a little chat with both her and my grandma, and I said that when everything's all done, I'm going to do my best to pop over more often and try and help maintain the mess. Because the mess is still going to happen. I know that, my auntie knows that. Even when everything's all lovely and new, she's not going to suddenly change personality or miraculously develop this top-notch executive function. When you have a certain kind of brain, keeping on top of or preventing mess is something that takes a lot of hard work, consistency and determination. And this is something that a lot of people aren't going to fully understand or even believe. But maintaining that level of mental focus can cause burnout and exhaustion. I know that probably sounds so silly to someone who's never experienced it. You're burnt out from trying not to make a mess. Yes. But yeah, even when you do think you've got a good handle on it, you've got a good routine going, it's very easy to be thrown off kilter. And when that happens, things spiral very quickly. And then you have to claw your way back to the place you were at, and it's all a big rigmarole. So yeah, people are going to slip up from time to time. Mess is probably still going to happen often and quickly. We're trying to look at things realistically here. But if we can all work as a team, we might be able to keep the mess to a minimum. Plus, it'll mean lots of great content for you guys. Because whenever there's a clean to be done, you can guarantee I'm not going to waste an opportunity to film. It always makes me laugh though, when I do cleans like this. And people will comment, you do know it's just going to go straight back to the way it was, don't you? Well, firstly, I don't like to sell someone short. No, we don't know what they're going to do. We don't know what people are capable of. People can surprise you. But yes, it's very likely. but that doesn't make the slightest bit of difference to me. It does not change anything on my end. As a messy person myself, someone who also struggles with executive dysfunction and the works, I know how hard it is for a lot of people. And I don't go into these cleans with a sense of entitlement or expectation that they should now keep on top of it because they owe it to me. Why would I expect a standard from people that I can't even uphold myself? I know full well how desperately we, all of us messy folk, don't want our houses to get into the situations they do, and how disappointed, how despondent, how guilt-ridden we feel when things ultimately get on top of us for the millionth time. Just need to stop my yammering here to show you what I found behind the mirror and the headboard. So much black mould. Honestly, this renovation can't come soon enough for them. I do not want my grandma sleeping in a room with black mould. But yeah, back to what I was saying. We hold so much shame. You would not believe how much. And I promise you, any insult or criticism you could possibly throw at us, we've already thrown at ourselves 1,000,000 times over. So no, I don't go into these cleans expecting the house to never get messy again. I go into these cleans to take a weight off and to provide a sense of relief. That's it. Anyway, this was another room almost clear. Just had to spray some black mould stuff on this menace. And I had about 45 minutes left before I had to leave. I was so happy I got the 2 rooms clear, but I didn't want to leave without sorting the kitchen a little bit. At this point, my auntie had gone to the dentist to have a wisdom tooth removed and she was feeling really nervous about it. And I didn't want her to come back to a messy kitchen. When your kitchen's cluttered and you can't see the surfaces, it makes you dread walking through the door. I believe life is centred around the kitchen, and for everything else around the house to function, it depends on the kitchen being clean. And there's nothing better than coming home and knowing you can make a cuppa or prepare some food without having to slug away moving stuff and organising and cleaning first. A lot of the time when it's like that, it just makes you think, oh, do you know what? I'm not even going to bother. I know often, instead of cooking, my auntie will just go to the shop to buy a sandwich, and that adds up over time. And in 45 minutes, I had nowhere near enough time to get the whole kitchen done. But I thought, if I just clear and clean one side, at least it'll make a bit of a difference and it'll be a nice treat for her for when she gets back. But yeah, speaking of teeth, I've been putting off going to the dentist myself. And it's because I am terrified she's going to tell me my front tooth needs to come out. So basically, when I was pregnant with my first, Rudy, well, both of my pregnancies actually, I had a condition called hyperemesis gravidarum. And if you don't know what that is, it's basically severe nausea and sickness, not morning sickness. They are not the same thing. This is to the point where you can't keep down food, you can't keep down water, and it usually ends up in hospital admissions and antiemetics, which are anti-sickness tablets, which no pregnant woman wants to have to take, but if you don't, it's not going to be a good outcome. Let's just put it that way. You lose a lot of weight, you're dehydrated, you can't really get up from your bed or do much of anything at all. So in my first pregnancy, I was throwing up probably every 15 minutes for the first 16 to 20 weeks. I got no relief from it, even when I was sleeping, or meant to be sleeping. I tried to describe it to people as, think of the worst food poisoning you've ever had. That extreme feeling of nausea, the room spinning, but instead of knowing it's going to end in the next few days, it's indefinite. You don't know how long it's going to last. Anyway, for the sake of this video not being the bleakest thing of mine you've watched so far, I'm going to skip forward to after I gave birth. So Rudy's born, all's good, I am so in love. So happy. And one day, at around 6 weeks postpartum, I'm flossing in front of the mirror between my 2 front teeth. And I hear this ping, and something bounces off the sink. I look up at my face, and half of my tooth has chipped off. From flossing. I later found out that so many women have dental problems after pregnancy. Why are we not told about that? But I think for me it was because of the constant stomach acid and bile that was all over my teeth in those early weeks of pregnancy. Probably doubled with the fact that I wasn't taking in nearly enough nutrients. But yeah, I ended up having to go to the dentist and she kind of drilled away a lot of it and reconstructed it. And it looks really real. But ever since she'd done that, my tooth's always felt weird, like a really odd sensation in the gum line. And I think the root or the nerve of the tooth has been slowly dying. And over the last few weeks, there's been this lump at the top of the tooth, and I know I need to go back to the dentist and tell her, But I just keep thinking I've made it almost 8 years and the tooth's managed to cling on. I don't want to let go. I keep saying to Charlie, you best get ready because one day I'm going to come home looking like a pirate. Ah well, at the end of the day, it's just a tooth. It could have been a lot worse, but I'm here, I'm healthy, and I'd do it all over again to have my boys. And I'm still bloody awesome, with or without my front tooth. Anyway, I know this particular video hasn't been as upbeat as most of my other videos. We've touched on quite a few kind of saddening topics when it comes to the cost of living and mental health and all of that. But I don't want to shy away from these kind of things because this is the reality for so many people now. And sometimes it helps to hear you're not the only one struggling, and especially when you hear that on social media. Oftentimes social media is full of people and homes that seem to be completely unaffected by current events. But then again, I know a lot of us go to social media for an escape, so if you've stuck with this video so far, I really hope I haven't put a downer on your day. And I hope you enjoyed watching what we managed to achieve. Maybe it gave you some tips on how to deal with your own clutter. And if you do enjoy decluttering videos and you want to learn more about my methods behind decluttering, I have a lot of videos on my channel. If not, I hope I at least managed to keep you company for 20 minutes while you got your stuff done. Next video coming up is my bedroom cupboard declutter. I hadn't forgotten about it, it was just when my auntie asked for my help, this obviously took priority over that. That video will be a lot more upbeat and I am so excited to get started on it. I've got a really detailed vision for it and I think you're going to really enjoy watching. So yeah, after washing the pots, which turned out to be very difficult without hot water, I had 10 minutes left to give everything a quick wipe down. Obviously I couldn't get into every nook and cranny. There will be some things I missed or didn't get to clean as thoroughly as I'd have liked. But overall, I think it ended up looking nice and clean and inviting. And I can't wait to come back and get some more done. I'm also going to hopefully keep you updated on the house renovations and how everything's looking in the future, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Same as with my dad's, I do wish I could come over more often and help, but with kids and work and having my own house to keep on top of, I have to arrange childcare and schedule these cleans in as and when I can. So yeah, we're all done here and I really hope you enjoyed the video.